For many, many years, massive MMA media members with giant platforms and fan bases that make loads and loads of money have really had a problem with UFC fighter pay and how low it is for certain UFC fighters. Now, to help this situation, these massively known MMA media members with massive fan bases and massive salaries have tried everything they could to help fighter pay in the UFC. I mean, they've cried about it on Twitter. They've cried about it on Instagram. They've even cried about it on YouTube as well. They've exhausted all of their options, it seems. They've tried everything. No, I'm joking. All they've done is cry and moan and complain. And when I grew up, I was taught that if you want something done, you do it yourself and you take action. So I'm rolling up my sleeves. I want to fix UFC fighter pay. And I think MMA YouTube can do it because we take action. We don't just cry about things and do nothing. Okay? I have a problem with UFC fighter pay at the very lowest level of the sport, and that is the level that I wish to tackle first. Okay? I'm not out here gonna use Ngannou as a big name in a big topic and a big discussion to start talking about fighter pay because, oh, you should have made this many million, not that many million. That's not where I want to discuss UFC fighter pay. I want to talk about what I'm gonna label first contract fighters. So I'm making a move. In 2025, I'm putting up my own money to pay out fighters on UFC cards that do well, that deserve a bit of extra money, and are on their first contract in the UFC. Now, I need to set some ground rules because I have a lot of plans here. I'm talking in an ideal world, if this all works out, I want a point in time in 2025, as late as it can be. I want a point where all of this happens. 10K performance bonuses, 10K fight of the night bonuses, 10K if you're robbed, and 5K for a bad KO loss or a bone break for first contract UFC fighters. Now, I need to specify what that means. Michael Chandler fought Dan Hooker and then Charles Oliveira. He was technically a first contract UFC fighter. Okay? So this does not mean that. I'm talking about a fighter who's worked up the regional scene, maybe won a fight on the Contender Series, and is now signed to the UFC, their first big promotion probably, for $10,000 to show, $10,000 to win, and $2,500 in Venom bonuses. This is where I have a problem with fighter pay, because these guys spend a lot of money getting to the octagon in the first place. They invest a lot, and I'm not saying I'm going to double it. I'm just saying we can give these guys some cheddar, and maybe in the process, who knows, shame the UFC so fucking much that the MMA guru is making more steps to pay fighters more than they are, so that they may have to take action themselves to avoid the absolute embarrassment. Who knows? I'm playing a character. This is all an alleged idea. I was playing a character when I said that. What also could happen is I could start this with my own money, and then we could get enough support for it where we can sustain it forever. And we can start getting these first contract UFC fighters paid. So that's what I'm doing. In 2025, I'm putting up my own money. You know what I mean? I'm putting up my own money, and I want to start paying out some of these first contract UFC fighters. I don't know how I'm going to go about doing this. I want the MMA community behind me on this. I want them to rally behind this. I want to make this a real movement. I think I have the fan base to do it. And I want to get these guys paid. And this is where it begins. This is where it began on Twitter yesterday when I was bored. Okay? In 2025, I'm planning to set up a 10K robbery insurance bank reserved for fighters on their first or second contract that get badly robbed. I can afford 10K per card. New fighters that would otherwise have had a career derailed by an awful decision will get a 10K bonus from me. Now, this picked up a lot of steam on Twitter. 4.3 thousand likes, 560,000 views. A lot of pages were reposting it. And I mean that. I want to do that in 2025, and this is where it begins. This is where it begins. It started as trying to bring attention to bad decisions. Because if I pay someone out, it's going to make the judges look so bad. it's going to really bring some attention to the judging decisions that we're seeing, because a lot of the prelim ones fly under the radar. Everyone's talking about how did Paulo Costa get that scorecard over Strickland. No one's talking about the fact that Mitch Raposo got a scorecard against Andre Lima. You know what I mean? The little guys get messed over in this game. The guys that are on 10 for 10. And you know what's sad to see? And this is where I want to make a difference in fighter pay. I'm not trying to get Paddy Pimblett an extra 10K. You know what I mean? I'm not. I'm not trying to get, I'm not trying to get Drew Dober an extra 50K. I'm not. I'm not trying to get Kevin Holland extra pay. Not at all. For the guys that make 10 for 10 on their first contract, then make 12 for 12, then make 14 for 14. Those are the guys that need a little bit more cheddar. And those are the guys I'm willing to help. Okay? And I hope the MMA community is willing to help as well, because we could make a real change here. And I know there's a lot of people that are on board, as they were saying on Twitter. So who knows? I just don't want to be like these other MMA media members that just cry about it, man. Just cry about fighter pay. Non-stop. Never do anything about it whatsoever. So I'm doing something about it, man. I'm doing something about it. 2025, if you're a young fighter making 10 for 10 in the UFC and you get robbed, I'm paying your win bonus for you. Just like that. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay? Other than that, though, we move on to this type of stuff. I want to create a world where we're pooling this money together for the fighters. Now, I can't cover all of this every card, okay? I can cover a decent sum of it, and that's where it's going to have to start. In fact, I'll have to cover a majority of it to start, right? So I'll find a way, come 2025, to fund a majority of this. I want to have a situation where we are, as MMA fans, changing the landscape of the sport. Not just sitting there watching, doing nothing. Nothing gets done. Cry about it on Twitter. Man, these guys deserve more pay. Dana's so evil. No. What's that going to do? Fuck all. We've been doing it for years. I want to get to a point where I can look at the prelims of a card and think, who's getting the bonus tonight? You know what I mean? Who's getting the MMA Guru bonus tonight on the card? I guess we'll find out. And I want these guys that are on there to be getting an extra bit of cheddar. Because, again, this is the same thing. Holloway gets the 300k bonus when he beats Gaethje. Pereira gets the 300k bonus when he beats Jamal Hill. The prelim guys had some good finishes. They're broke. They don't get shit, though, because the main card guys always get the bonuses because it's a massive moment and they're big name fighters and everyone's watching and it makes all the noise and everyone forgets about the prelims, and you got a guy getting a head kick KO on the early prelims, not getting no bonus for it whatsoever. It's wrong. And that's where I want to change fighter pay. For those that deserve it, for those that have been robbed of it, and for those that need it. And that's what these categories cover. Hopefully you can see all of them on screen right now. Guru plus the fan base bonuses. 2025. For first contract UFC fighters, as I said, 10k in performance bonuses. This could be 2 5s. This could be 110. You've got maybe 4 guys, 3 guys, 3 different bouts, 4 different bouts, 5 different bouts, 6, 7. Who knows with how bad some of the Apex cards have been recently. You got a lot of guys that are on their first contract in the UFC. If one of them gets a finish, I'm going to make it a world in 2025. My aim, before 2025 is over, is to make it a world where those guys are getting some cash. Where after the card, I'm looking at who gets the bonuses. I'm seeing that they've gone to the main and co-main event again because there were finishes. And I'm seeing this guy on the prelims taking home 22.5 grand. He's just got a head kick KO and ain't got no bonus for it. And I'm giving that dude 10k. Okay? I want to live in a world where the 2 prelim guys that put on a fucking scrap, oftentimes better than the scrap you saw in the feature fight of the pay-per-view, aren't getting robbed of that fight of the night bonus so it can go to millionaires. They can get an extra bit of cheddar as well, because I tell you this, you may laugh at these numbers, 10k, 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 5k. These numbers are going to change a lot for those young fighters. They are. They really are. That's an extra win bonus for a lot of these guys. For all of them, in fact. When they sign for 10 for 10, this is an extra win bonus for them. If they get robbed, we're losing careers here. We could be losing prospects from being robbed as like a young fighter in their career. You don't know how much these guys are financially struggling. If they go home with a loss, they could go from a fighter who had everything in there, especially if they get robbed, they could go from a fighter who was going to be a future world champion to all of a sudden they can't pay the bills. They got to pick up a part-time job again, and that skill level starts to deteriorate, and they never become the fighter that they should have been. And that's where fighter pay needs to change. 5K, I love this one at the end as well that I want to implement. 5K for a bad KO loss or a bone break. I'd never feel bad for fighters when they don't make money. I really don't. Some guy loses, he was supposed to make another 50K. He only got 50K tonight. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, this guy, he only got 30K. What a shame. I don't really care. You know what I mean? I don't feel bad to me. When I see a prelim fighter have a broken arm, broken nose, broken orbital, beaten up badly. You've seen some of these prelims. Some of these guys get badly beaten in their first fight in the UFC, even in their second fight as well. I mean, I know Benoit Saint Denis has now gone on to be a good name and build some money for himself, but he signed against Alessio Zaleski dos Santos on his first contract, 10 for 10, and he got destroyed in that fight, took career-changing damage. He then went on to be great, but those fighters shouldn't be leaving with 12.5K. They shouldn't be leaving with 10K and a 2.5K Venom bonus, and they've just had so much damage taken in their career. For those fighters, I want to give a little insurance policy there. You know what I mean? If you're taking damage, if you're going to war, if you're giving it your all, if you broke your arm trying to escape a submission, and you're on low paycheck, little coverage right there. Call it medical coverage maybe. 5K. I can get this done. And for those wondering where the fund's coming from, I can make this happen, I think. Okay? I can. I'm not saying I've got all of it to give, but I can get some sponsor on board. 1,000,000% I can. I know I can. Listen, I've been turning down sponsors for 4.5 years because I ain't trying to get a sponsor and then just take all the money. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to sell out like that. But if a sponsor was to get on board and we can redirect that sponsorship money and make this a possibility because of it and change the landscape of the sport and change fighter pay in the UFC because of it, I'll gladly bring them on board. I want the MMA community to get involved in this. I want MMA YouTube to prove why it's better than the traditional MMA media. We aren't going to be the ones just sitting here on our computers, watching the sport, whinging and complaining about things, and taking zero fucking action. We can take action, and with my fan base, and other people's fan bases on MMA YouTube combined, we can 100% make this a reality. I've got people on Twitter. I'm not going to go through all of them now, but I don't want to lock them into something that they might not be able to commit to. But I've got a lot of people saying they pledge this amount. If you do this, I'll donate this amount to it every card. And we got a lot of people saying that. I ain't had no big name fighters mention anything about this. I'm not saying they're being ungrateful, but I ain't had no big name fighters mention this or post about it or anything like that. I ain't had no big MMA media member personalities reach out to me about this. I've had a few YouTube channels do it though. I've had a few MMA YouTube channels reach out and say, I'll support, I'll chip in this. I've had a few randoms on MMA Twitter saying, I'll chip in this, I'll throw this couple hundred every week, I'll chuck in this couple hundred. We can make this a reality. Okay? 1 performance bonus a card. 10K fight of the night bonus as well. 10K if you're robbed of a fight. And these things are going to get headlines, which is why it starts here. We need the headlines from this. This isn't just me trying to be nice to the fighters. In fact, I'm bored. I need a motivation. I'm bored of YouTube. I'm bored of this every week. What's the Apex card this weekend? You know what I mean? It's just like sometimes I need something. And this is my something now. I've got it. I've made an establishment in MMA. I've established myself in the industry. I need something else to chase. You know what I mean? I do. And this is it. This is a mission I can take on and I can grind towards and I can try and make happen. I'd love there to be a world where this happens. I'd love it. And I think this is where it starts because this is going to get the headline immediately. Fighter got robbed on prelims. This community paid his win bonus for him. Bang, I can see that getting posted everywhere, instantly. And that's how we're going to have to do it, man. We're going to have to make a change. We're going to have to either, I'm playing a character while I say this next bit. I imagine that the UFC and Dana White would feel quite embarrassed that the fan base was paying out fighters for them. That the MMA guru was forking up his own money to pay fighters that aren't getting quite enough on the early prelims. And maybe, just maybe, they would be so embarrassed that they'd have to maybe change it themselves so that MMA Guru isn't the one that's leading the change in fighter pay and they can be the ones to do it instead. Or maybe I make such a bit of a fuss that everyone gets behind this as I want them to, and we can start making this sustainable, and who knows where this can end up. Direct line to the fighters, performance bonuses. You know there's guys on the prelims that steal the show, that don't get no credit for it because no one's in the arena and no one's really watching. But some guys will go to war on the early prelim opener and they're forgotten about by the time the main card starts. And they leave there with their 20k. And the loser who's just gone to war and his face is an absolute mess. One broken hand, one broken foot, leaving in a wheelchair, is coming out with 12.5k. It's not good. So this is where it begins. I want to make this happen. And I think this could be quite a fun thing. We could have fighters on the mic saying, where's my fan base bonus at? I came here for the bonus. I want my MMA Guru bonus. This could be a thing. Try not to get too egotistical about this. As my face is cropped over Jesus Christ himself. Try not to get too egotistical about this, guys, okay? I am your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. However, I'm also doing this for genuine reasons as well, guys. Let's do it, man. We can make a change in fighter pay, and that's what I want to do. And I'm going to fork up my own money to do it in 2025. And I'm going to work with maybe a sponsor that's going to help me fork up some more money to do this as well. And I'd like to put forward a majority of this every week, every fight card. And we're going to make some noise. And we're going to do something about it. Because I'm not going to say any names about any MMA media members. But you've tried crying. And it's done fuck all. So roll your fucking sleeves up. Put your money where your fucking mouth is. And let's actually get some of these guys paid. Okay? I think this is sustainable. And I think it'll be a big deal. A real big deal in combat sports history. In all honesty, the fan base that changed the standard of pay for their athletes. You going to be a part of it or not? Let me know. And also, I do want to mention this, yeah. I'm out the hood now, you know what I'm saying? So I've had some clarity and some time to think about things. I am just disrespecting fighters for a living. And I'm making more than a fucking lot of them. And I am just disrespecting them for a living a lot of the time. Now, some could say constructive criticism. Some could say very flagrantly colourful constructive criticism. You know what I'm saying? But I am just making a living off of making fun of fighters, making predictions about them, laughing at them when they get KO losses. Least I could do is this. You know what I mean? Least I could do. There's people, yeah, that will talk all nice, won't do fuck all for you. I talk like a cunt, okay? I am a cunt. I'm a disgusting person. But I know right and wrong, okay? And I ain't gonna sit back and watch some dude go to war on the fucking prelims, get his face mashed up. You know what I mean? Ramiz Brahimaj lost an ear in one of his fights. He lost an ear to Max Griffin, left with 12.5k. I ain't gonna let that happen. So 2025, we're working towards it. Any other MMA YouTube channels? See if you want to get involved. Anyone that knows the logistics of this, wants to help me out a little bit on Instagram, that boy MMA Guru, or no, that's my Twitter. The MMA Guru _official is my Instagram. DM me there. Let me know some logistics. How am I going to work this out? I reckon I can do it though. So like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye. I don't know what to end it with, so we'll just end it there. Yeah, I want to do something about it, so let's do something about it. 2025, we changed the standard of pay for UFC fighters, and either the UFC does something about it themselves, or we set the new standard. See you later. Goodbye. Toodle pip.